I feel really blessed to have worked with more than 40 CEOs over the years. It's kind of crazy. But there's certain things you really do remember. When I was 22 years old, I happened to play baseball with Dick Loyne's son, Mike Loyne, who went on to win a Golden Spike Award, by the way, best player in college baseball at the time. And so I went to see him and I said, Mr. Loyne, what's the best advice you could give me for my career? And he said, well, Bob, what I would say is the only person who's going to look out for your reputation is you. And that is the most important thing you will have for the rest of your life from a business standpoint. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. I was expecting him to say, like, read more books or get your MBA or, but he left me with that, and it turned out to be 100% on target.
Austin Community Capital. This show is a celebration of the spirit of Austin, Texas, honoring our past, engaging our present, and building our future together. Although it's not the last time.
Bob, I'm so grateful to have you on the show. I know you because I have the blessing of being one of your tenants in an incredible building that you and your wife built that has become a space for my friends and I, who are all running our different companies, to have really vibrant community. And then you were gracious to let us get to know you as a friend and form a relationship. And the picture I got of you, and I'm excited to tell this story today, is a wildly creative, I would call you a marketing guru, a guide to the leaders, and a community builder. So really excited to unpack your story today.
Yeah, and it's fun to have you guys in the building. I mean, it's really, what I enjoy is that there's 6 or 7 companies, all very smart, ambitious entrepreneurs who are figuring out their path, and to play off each other. And just to even see that is pretty cool.
Well, I appreciate that generous affirmation. I think a fun start to your story is moving from overseas to Austin. And there's a very unique kind of landing in Austin experience for your family. So tell us what that was like and how you made it here to Austin.
Yeah, so we had lived in Switzerland for 3 years. And so when we moved here to Austin, the first night we were here, I said to Donna, hey, let's take the kids and go down to 6th Street, the famous 6th Street. So we went down there. There were cars were honking and people were all waving at us and they were giving them the hook 'em. And we thought, my goodness, this is the most friendly city we have ever been in our entire lives. And we just didn't understand it, but we thought this is really cool. And we went home, and then we realized that UT had just won the national championship. So they actually weren't waving at us. They were just simply celebrating the win. But we were so far out of that because we had been in Europe for years and just weren't tied in yet to the Longhorns. Now I'm a diehard Longhorns fan.
I think it was actually a welcome party for the Pearsons, but
it could be.
The championship
dual purpose.
Sidebar was, And so you came to Austin. What did initial involvements look like? I feel like you implanted yourself quite quickly into communities here. What do those commitments look like?
Well, one of the things about Austin, and I would say Texas in general, is it's very welcoming to people who come from another place. So when I came in, I was immediately asked, would I be interested in being part of something called the Emerging Technology Fund for the state of Texas? And so I agreed and I joined that. And the purpose of that was really to say, are there people who want to come to Texas, and can we give them money from the state to help them bring in their biotech company or their software company, or people in Texas who want to stay and build? So right from the beginning, it's like, how do we help people build community here? Or how do we have people stay and build community here? And it just taught me right away that the state is about that, the city's about that, and I've always been like that myself. Like, welcome others in to enjoy what we see in Austin.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been a guy, and I touched on this in the intro a little bit, you've come alongside so many people, so many leaders, and have been a source of counsel, a source of wisdom, a source of encouragement. I'd love for you to share a couple vignettes through your career of maybe coming alongside a leader in their community and kind of what that guidance looked like.
Yeah, I feel really blessed to have worked with what it turns out to be more than 40 CEOs over the years. It's kind of crazy. But there's certain things you really do remember, and I'll give you just one or two. Is when I was 22 years old, I happened to play baseball with Dick Loyne's son, Mike Loyne, who went on to win a Golden Spike Award, by the way, great best player in college baseball at the time. And so I went to see him and I said, Mr. Loyne, what's the best advice you could give me for my career. And he said, well, Bob, what I would say is the only person who's going to look out for your reputation is you. And that is the most important thing you will have for the rest of your life from a business standpoint. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. I was expecting him to say, like, read more books or get your MBA or, but he left me with that. And it turned out to be 100% on target. The other thing is just like watching leaders, like, Michael Dell, when we had the battery crisis at Dell, we had
and set the stage for what that was like, or what that means for folks.
Yeah, I mean, there was there was a time when there was a computer that went on fire, and it turned out that there were batteries that would go on fire, and those batteries were really in all computers. So it wasn't just Dell; it was every computer manufacturer. And what Michael's approach was, you just do the right thing, period, and you look back a year from now and say, did you do the right thing, yes or no? And we did. So we did the biggest recall in history. All the other companies followed us and did the same thing. And customers were actually very pleased and proud that we led the way. So it's like sometimes you can have something that doesn't go perfectly, but you still make the most of it because you're basically doing the right thing. So people like that taught me how to do the right thing. Another one would be Dan Vasella. When he was CEO of Novartis, when the tsunami hit, this is like 20 years ago, and it was a devastating tsunami. One of the things he did was he just said, okay, let's get some planes chartered. Let's put medicine in there, put everything we can in there, ship it out to India, to Sri Lanka, to other places, and don't publicize it. Don't tell anyone. And we didn't. We just did it because everything in life doesn't have to be a press release or a pound on the chest. And that was another thing I learned is do the right thing for people, but don't expect to get something for it.
Man, that's powerful. And those are such wonderful guiding principles for folks. So, and working with 40 CEOs.
Yeah, over time, yeah.
Take us through some of the roles that you played in those different seasons, or maybe if there's a long stint you had with a particular CEO, a particular company. Walk us through what role were you playing? What did that look like?
Yeah, so it's like at different points in my career. Like when I was head of product communications and public affairs at what is now called Sanofi. It was Rome Planck Rohr at the time. One of the people I got to work with was Jean-Jacques Bien-Aimé. At that time, he was head of marketing, and then he became the CEO of BioMarin, and very accomplished executive. And what he taught me is like he did his homework always. And when you would go into his office and you would make an ask, he would look at you, and if he knew that you could do it, he would just say, okay. And you would walk out of that room and you're thinking, my goodness, I have to come through. Like I have to work twice as hard to make sure I don't disappoint him because he put so much trust in me. So I found that like leaders who would put trust in you often got more in return than leaders who yelled at you or made you feel bad or like put pressure on you. Those are the leaders you're like, okay, I'll get the job done so I can survive, but I'm not liking it. So a person like a Jean-Jacques he's a wonderful example of a great leader and has had a very good career. So that's just, there's so many examples, but that's one of them.
That's incredible. And what I love about him, and that's an unassuming way to empower people.
Yes.
And kind of a simple formula of, hey, let them come with the idea, the ask, the plan, and endorse it. And
exactly.
Blow some wind in their sail, and then, oh, shoot, now I've got to run with this, and I got to deliver results. And
that's exactly right. Because if you think about it, like every single person who's working they go in with the intent of, I want to do a good job. I'd like to maybe get ahead over time. I want to learn something, but they can't always articulate that in their brain. They might not even know that they're thinking that. So leaders that can help you discover what you can do are often the best leaders. One of the things I've always said about Michael Dell is he's fantastic at asking questions, about listening to people, and then knowing exactly where he wants to go. So he kind of helps people discover where to go, and that is definitely more powerful.
I'm with him and with you on that questions are such a powerful unlock tool, and such an amazing way to help someone along a journey. And help let them shine light on their own path and do that in a very empowering way that, you know, kind of puts them in the driver's seat and gives ownership, which is another incredible ingredient in a company, in a community, is there's shared ownership. The thing is going to go further together. So I love that story.
This show is supported by Loyal Home Concierge. You can take a company public, but you just found a scorpion in the guest room. Welcome to Austin. We'll handle it. LoyalHomeConcierge.com.
So you have had, an enviable track record of working with all these different leaders and seeing so many glimpses of leadership. And I feel like you've built, a personal war chest of wisdom. And now you're writing. Tell us about, now you're sharing a lot of these learnings. What are some things that are causing you to put pen to paper, and what are some principles you want other leaders to know? Yeah, what's some of what's going into these books you're writing?
Yeah, so right now I'm writing this 6th book for business, which is called The Compass, and it's how to navigate AI. And the thing that drives me in each book is, do I feel like I can articulate something that will help people think through the next 3, 4, or 5 years? And if I feel that enough, then I write the book. So in the case of AI, which is everyone's thinking about now, everyone's experimenting with tools and talking about ChatGPT and Perplexity and Pi, and you go through the list. But what not enough people are doing is thinking through, how does this actually change workflow? How does this actually create new jobs? Not get rid of jobs. How does it create new jobs? What are the opportunities to actually innovate that we didn't have before? And so the book is really geared at getting people to think about how to harness AI through the human-centered drive, so we actually make the most of AI. At the same time, there's part of the book that is on, hey, there's ethical issues. We got to think about mis and disinformation. There's a bad part of this too that we also have to prepare for. We can't put our heads in the sand. So this is, I think, a book that 5, 10 years from now, people will still look at it and go, that's helpful.
Well, I hope that can give leaders the ability to have a steady hand on the wheel amidst, a wildly powerful and scary or risky technology that can take a lot of different forms, but having a thoughtful plan going in and having some illumination of what might come or just how to think about that. I'm glad that guidance is out there.
Yeah, it's key. I think with technology, oftentimes when something's new, humans have 2 things that happen when something new happens. That are big. One is skepticism, and the other is curiosity. So there's the group of us who will say, "Oh, AI is terrible. It's going to doom the world. This is. What do we do to control it?" And the other part that says, "Oh, this can do anything. I can't wait." And the reality is, it's almost always in the middle. Right? So we have to just take a healthy look at it. But the key is, we drive AI. It shouldn't drive us. And that's it. When people get that through their head, they think, "Okay, now what do I do?" And then that gets into the next steps.
You're really in a generous posture by taking this wisdom you've learned and sharing it with others through the form of books. And I just get the sense that generosity is a big part of your life. I'd love to learn, what does it look like for you and Donna to express that generosity or contribute to community here in Austin? Yeah, what does community in Austin look like, and giving back?
Well, I'll start with, if you don't mind, a lesson that Donna and I learned when we were first dating. So you go back, and a long time ago, we were married 36 years. And so she was blessed with a boss and a mentor named Dave Bixel, who's unfortunately passed. And Dave was a fantastic fundraiser, but really more a kind, generous soul. And so he was asking us, as we were dating, what would we do to be giving back? And we gave him the typical story. When we're older, we'll do this. When we have more money, we'll do this. When we have more time, we'll do this. And he said, none of that's true. He said, you should be doing stuff now. You can give back any day for your whole life. What are you doing this weekend? And so we said, oh, we're free. And so he had us come to this college where they had people who had different kinds of mental disabilities, and you were assigned a person. So we were assigned a person that we went around with the whole day. And to see the joy of that person, to spend that day, it touched us forever. And we said, okay, now, what do we do? So it could be being on a nonprofit board. It can be all these things. In Austin's got its own unique culture. So like Alan Graham, who I think is going to be on your series, he's awesome. I mean, Austin would be a different place without him. And so Community First, which he's built, in the earlier days, we got a bunch of our friends together and we put in our money and we had a house built. So if I built the house, they wouldn't want to be in it, but other people built it. Right?
Yeah, and tell folks, Bob, what that is, kind of who Alan is and Community First that may not be familiar, because it's an incredible...
Alan Graham is someone who has dedicated his life to helping people who are homeless, who might be able to get back on their feet. And one of his principles, it's a faith-based approach, and it's really, a lot of it is related to respect. That people deserve respect. They deserve a chance to have a comeback. And quite frankly, if they can get into a community or a home, then they have a feeling of being meaningful. And so he started this thing called Community First to help build houses, take people off the street. And if they get into a house, they have to have a job. So they may not have a paying job, but if they don't have a paying job, they still help, like pull weeds, or maybe they cut the grass, or they do something to give back to the community. And so it's a wonderful idea. And our house that we had built, a lot of us are Rolling Stones fans, so we called it Gimme Shelter, you know. But meeting the woman who came there, I don't even usually tell the story because it's so touching. But it's like, so I won't tell all of it because then I'll end up crying on the series. But the one thing she said to us was that this may be the first time that her daughter could actually believe in her and see that she might be able to turn the corner. And as she was telling that story, it just breaks your heart. And you realize that every person you see on the street who maybe is down and out, there's a story there. And the question is, can we help them or not to unlock that story and maybe move forward? And Alan Graham is the embodiment of that in Austin.
That's beautiful. And I'm touched that you and Donna have invested so much to be a part of that great work. And I share your heart for folks experiencing homelessness. And I learned recently someone was talking about just the phenomenon of homelessness and asked a group of us, hey, what do you think is the leading cause of homelessness? And I thought it might be, substance abuse or some personal challenge. And what I learned, it was lack of community. Folks, hit some hard season in their life, hit a roadblock, and there was not an infrastructure of community to support them. And I think that some of the great work, along a lot of thoughtfulness that Community First is doing is they're giving community, and they're creating this fabric of relationships and taking people from, a quite isolating existence into community. And it's just so rich to see what happens.
It's a really good point, because let's say you grow up and you're fortunate enough to have a good family dynamic. If you have a moment where you maybe need to borrow some money, or you need some help, or you need someone to babysit the kids, like, you have people that can help you, but sometimes people don't have any of that. There isn't any money. There isn't anyone to help them. There isn't anyone to help them with their health care. And you're right, it's that cascade that can often lead people to be in not a good place. So, we all do our part as we go.
You mentioned the phrase family dynamic. What are some favorite dynamics of your family, or traditions, or ways that y'all connect with one another?
Well, our kids, our daughters now, Nicole and Brittany, are 32 and 29. But when we first came here 19 years ago, what I liked about Austin, we're like a music family. So we love music. We've always gone out to music together. Donna and I would take them down to 6th Street, and we would get into blues bars. And so, you think of these kids are like 10, 12 years old, and we're seeing these awesome blues guitarists, and that's kind of how they grew up. We're going to Stubbs and eventually ACL and things like that. So music has been one of those bonds. And then from there, each child is different, and you kind of follow their passions as well,
I love that. I'm just picturing your family, maybe I'm at that blues bar and I see some parents rolling in with some super young kids, and I'd probably think initially, whoa, what's going on here? But then I'd think, man, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome that they're getting to experience that beautiful part of Austin.
Yeah. I mean, now, of course, you can't get in unless you're of age and all that. But back then, you just walked in and no one cared.
Oh, man, the good old days of Austin that I hear little glimpses of. And I long for myself. But and I can attest to that music passion. And in our office, there's signed guitars, there's records up on the wall. There's just a great vibe that makes it very clear about that love that y'all have for music. I love that.
There's a John Bon Jovi guitar in there. That was one that I have to admit, that's a miss for me, because when Donna and I were dating back in New Jersey, she had friends that were diehard fans of this emerging star that wasn't a star yet, this kid called John Bon Jovi. And they'd always want us to go. And I always thought, like, that doesn't make sense. That's not a name of a band. So, so we never went. And of course, when I look back on time, what a mistake. So then we did pay to go to a couple of his concerts later on, of course.
Shot through the heart. So thinking about your wife, Donna, what's an unexpected gift that Donna's brought to your life?
It's, we balance each other. I think that's the easiest way to say it. So Donna is an accountant. She's a CPA. She's very thoughtful. She thinks things through. I'm usually, the kids call it Bobland. I'm off in ideas. I'm thinking. I'm writing stuff down. I do come back to normal day-to-day stuff. But my preference is to dream and innovate and think. And so I need someone pulling me back to say, what about this? And so we've always just had that. Plus, Donna's a great mom, and so it takes two to tango. And I could not have been traveling around the world for most of my career, because I always was traveling internationally and going to all these events and doing keynotes and things like that, unless everything was going well at home. And I've always had that ability to do it. So none of that happens without Donna doing her thing.
Man, I'd say cheers to Donna.
That's right. Cheers.
You're visualizing the Serengeti sunset. You are not visualizing the 3-hour hold time to change your flight connection in Cape Town. Did you know Loyal does that too? From fixing the faucet to planning your family's African safari, we handle the logistics so you can handle the adventure. Wow! Loyal Home Concierge, your passport to peace of mind.
Going back to our meeting, I met you and Donna quite quickly after entering the office, and we were meeting the landlords, and that was a very unusual landlord connection of just seeing the wonderful relationship you have with Donna and how personable you were with us, and it was fun to share an alma mater with her.
Yeah, Bucknell, right?
Oh yeah,
gotta get Bucknell.
Very Bucknell.
Gotta get Bucknell.
And what I saw of you two is just a dynamic kind of power couple duo, and I was hearing about the project of the building and you all working on that together. How did you get to this point of collaborating together and working together on projects and in business? How did that come about?
She did a great job of the building. She deserves the credit for it. I mean, what we saw is land in a good part of Austin, and it was an old building from 1976, and the people in there were awesome. It was just old. So in renovating it, it's kind of interesting experience to go from designs from an architect to then actually seeing it, and all that stuff in between. There's so many decisions that get made. So that really played to Donna's strength to every day thinking through, what do we do? How do we make this right? How do we do everything just right? And the result, it's a beautiful building. So for me, it's just a fun project to work with her on. And I think I learned from her as she was doing that, which is also nice,
Well, y'all seem to balance each other incredibly well. And it's so cool to see both of your different gifting come out and, how we experience that.
Well, you guys are an example too of like, why did we build the building? It was to say, can people come in here who can bounce off each other, innovate with each other, improve their networks? And so the group that you're part of, like that's the embodiment of what we had in our head. We didn't know you, but we were like, we want people like you. And then all of a sudden you see it, you're like, that's it. Because you guys will do lunch and learns, you'll have meetings in the morning, you have investors come in, there's all kinds of things happening. That's the goal.
Yeah, we love that space, and it's been a revolving door to bring people that we're close with in, make introductions to one another and be inspired, and really been a place of connection for us.
Yeah.
So Bob, along our conversation, you've touched on some really cool components of Austin culture.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear kind of a twofold question. What's filling your cup now? And what are some just favorites about the city of Austin? Could be spots you like, or memories, or pieces of that culture that you really appreciate.
Yeah, maybe start with the second part of that, which is, like, I love having breakfast meetings at Cisco's. I've been doing that for many years. Why do I like that? It's an old school place. They haven't changed a thing in like 60 years. When they actually started to get T-shirts and hats to sell, we were all like, "Ooh, that's a little too much," you know. But it's just a great place to have community there. So I think we tend to favor the older places just because they're kind of fun, but we're not against the progress. You know, one thing I've always said about Austin is, like, when we came here in 2006, everyone thought this place is going to take off, and you kind of look around and you're like, I guess, but you couldn't tell. But there's been that enthusiasm to do it. So when you're successful getting there, you can't complain. You have to just embrace it and say, this is fantastic that we have all these buildings going up and I-35 is getting done, and this is all part of progress. So that part I like. I think...
well, and let me pause real quick, Bob.
Yeah.
I think we need to double click on Cisco's.
Yeah.
And let me say first, we had breakfast at Cisco's. And when the server came by and said, "You having the regular?" to you, I was very envious.
Yes.
I long for my own version of that restaurant where I'm known and someone says, "Hey, Austin, regular?" So tell people about Cisco's that may not be familiar, because it's such a cultural institution here on the east side of Austin.
Cisco's is actually the name of the original owner. And I started to go there when we came in because, like, Bill Cunningham, who used to be the chancellor of UT and, you know, lead person at UT, he had a table in the back that he would just kind of hold court there. You know, he'd have breakfast, he'd have meetings, and went there a couple of times to meet with Bill. He was a fantastic guy, done so much for the state. And then I realized, like, I'm going to bring people here, you know, and actually one of the first times I went, I didn't realize this, but a lot of first responders go to eat there in the morning. So I came in one morning early in my Cisco's career, and all of a sudden a cop car comes in next to me, and another cop car, and another cop car.
You're like, "Uh-oh, what's going on?"
I just stopped. I'm like, okay, there's a raid going on here. I'm just going to, like, wait till this happens. And then they all got out and went to breakfast. It's like, I got it, you know. So I think it's when you have Austin history around you, and that's what they do. They have, you know, it's things from the Longhorns, it's academic, it's things about the city. They're all on the walls. And so you feel like you're remembering what made Austin special a long time ago. And that's one of the reasons why I like Cisco's. Man,
incredible spot. And so I interrupted your flow a little bit of touching on favorites of the Austin culture, favorite parts of Austin, spots you're liking now, and just, you know, rhythms that are filling your cup.
Yeah, I mean, I think what fills my cup on Austin is that it's not trying to be another place. You know, and so I've been asked this when speaking publicly, do you think Austin will be the next Silicon Valley? And I say, no, I think Austin will be the next Austin, you know. And why is that? It's because we have this, like, really, what I like is we have the capital there, and I have done some work with the state and have a lot of respect for what they do. And then I am a lecturer at University of Texas, in McCombs School, the business school. And that's a wonderful way to give back, because, you know, for me, like, you don't teach to make money, you teach to give back to the students and the community there. And then there's the tech community, which is integrating everywhere. And then you still have, like, CPG companies, consumer packaged goods companies. We still have, like, food entrepreneurs. We've got artists, we've got musicians. You know, it's that mix that we say, how do we support it? And I'll give you one example of this. When COVID hit, we live in Rainy Street in one of the high rises, and we're like, okay, musicians, how are they making money? And the answer is probably not. So what we did is we actually put in place, we called it 70 Rock, and we had 11 shows for all of our residents who couldn't go anywhere because of COVID.
Ah, epic!
And we paid a good amount of money to each musician or band. And we asked each band, what's your favorite charity? We'll donate money to that as well. And so they would say HAM, or they'd say the Blind Children of Texas or something like that, and we gave them money. So we did that 11 times until COVID lifted. So I think, part of it's just being creative and saying, how do we give back in different ways to the city that we all love?
Man, I love that convergence of giftings and enjoyments of yours of contributing to the community, hosting, and music.
Yes.
And using music as a tool for connection. And it's been such a powerful tool for connection for your family for so long.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It was awesome for the building because we all got to know each other. And it's just this very informal setting. And, I would often be the MC and announce the band and then talk about the place we were donating money and all that. And everyone willingly gave. Yeah, because we all know how important music is to this city.
Yeah, and this is, a caring city. I haven't come across many cities that have the number of cause-oriented nonprofits or organizations that are helping locals in different capacities. And it's really inspiring. And I think, encouragement for folks tuning in that live here, a lot of opportunities to get involved, and remembering that encouragement that you gave of, hey, you don't have to wait until you've got, a lot of money to give or a lot of time. Like, you can contribute now, and it can look a number of different ways. It doesn't have to be a big grandiose expression, but little forms of contribution, let you really get tied in.
A great example of this, we live right near the trail, Lady Bird Lake. So if we see people like out there picking up trash on a Saturday, if they're not too busy, we'll stop and just say thank you. And what a great contribution to just take a trash bag, get some trash out of there, and then go about your business for the rest of the day. And that reminds me of Chuck Leavell, who I've been friends with for a long time now, 25 years, who's a keyboardist for the Rolling Stones and a great environmentalist. People may not always know that, but he's big into sustainable forestry and all that. And he was just recently on a podcast where it was asked, what's the way that you can give back? And he said, you know what? One thing you can do every day, just pick up a piece of trash. So of course you could do more than that, but it's like all of us can do that. And I find myself going, you're right, Chuck. I see something on the ground, just go pick it up and just put it away. And it's a good way to live.
Oh yeah, beautiful, straightforward encouragement. And I think, we're hearing a common thread of when building community, when investing in friendships, when giving back to your community, the barrier to entry is low. And it can start with just a little expression, picking up a piece of trash, initiating with a friend, starting a rhythm of connection, and then you can work up to hosting a concert at your building. But that's, more pro level. But yeah, the barrier is low, and there's so many rich opportunities out there, particularly in a city like Austin.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's it. It's just like, just do something, and I think if, some people maybe they really are too busy, but I find that if people have time to talk about it, they probably have time to do something about it.
Fair observation. Well, as we bring our conversation to a close, Bob, what would you like to leave folks with, and how can they find you or find the books?
Yeah. So, I do most of my writing on LinkedIn, so that's an easy place to find me. And rather than like, here's 5 or 6 different places to go. I find that doing things like this is really important because, you always hope like maybe 1 or 2 people listen and they go, okay, I'm going to do something a little different. I've definitely been impacted doing that, and so I think the series you're doing is one of those things that's special. And from there, I don't know, I think it's like, keep Austin personal, right? That's kind of the way I think of it, because it's like something you were getting at is like, if it's personal, we do pick up the trash. We do help out a band. We do help someone who's homeless. If it's not personal, then it's always someone else's problem. Like, it's not us. And I don't ever want us to become that city, and hopefully we never do.
Amen to that. Well, Bob, you've been so generous with me with your wisdom and experience, and you've been generous today with our listeners with that. And so super grateful for our time together. Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Austin Community Capital. This show is a celebration of the spirit of Austin, Texas, honoring our past, engaging our present, and building our future together. If this conversation sparked something in you, a new idea, a feeling of connection, or just a good laugh, Pass it on. Share this episode with a fellow Austinite or a loved one who needs to hear it. Let's keep weaving this fabric of community together. This show is proudly presented by Loyal Home Concierge. At Loyal, we believe that a healthy, thriving city starts within the four walls of your home. We are passionate about supporting overextended executives, the moms and dads who do it all, and the couples who take life by storm. Because we know that when your home life is supported, you are free to support the ones who matter most.
Your kids, your wife.
Whether you need a proactive manager for your home or a creative problem solver for your next big adventure, we are here to help you design a life of intention. LoyalHomeConcierge.com. Let's make life a little more beautiful together. Stay loyal to your community, and we'll see you next time.